whether you think the birth was real, whether you think there was a surrogate, whether you think Meghan was wearing a moon bump, the fact is Harry and Meghan lied. Buckingham Palace lied on their behalf. There was a complete cover-up over the birth of Prince Archie, and we have to keep looking into why. So I really wanted to talk about the birth of Prince Archie, because in recent weeks, there has been so much more focus from the mainstream media on the discrepancies, the downright lies, and the weirdness involving both of Meghan Markle's pregnancies. And I actually, at one point, took on Camilla Tominay, the associate editor of the Daily Telegraph, when writing all about that terrible twerking video when Meghan was apparently in hospital in labour with Lily. Because in Camilla Tominay's article, her analysis of this, she didn't even for a single second raise the prospect of whether this bump was real. And I think if you're a journalist, at the very least, you've got to ask questions about this. And she came back with a very snippy response, as if I was some type of conspiracy theorist and, you know, us people who are in the mainstream media and the royal rota, we could never be as irresponsible as you, Dan. That was the tone of her response. And that's why I wanted to talk about Archie's birth. Because remember, I was the first person in the world to call up and to focus on all of the discrepancies surrounding Archie's birth. At the time, I was in the mainstream media. I was the executive editor of the Sun newspaper. I was determined to get Buckingham Palace on the record, and I did, in this piece, which was published on the 10th of May, 2019, and headlined Call the Mishap. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry forced to deny claims they stage-managed Archie's birth. Buckingham Palace answers 8 queries surrounding the birth of baby Archie. Brittany from the Royal News Network is with me for this. And Brittany, the reason I wanted to do this, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I think it's really gutless of these mainstream journalists to say, nothing to see here, folks, no reason to ask any questions about this, when I was in the mainstream in May 2019, and it was so obvious to me that so many lies had been told about Archie's birth, and I wanted to find out why. Why do you think there has been such a lack of interest from other mainstream journalists on this issue?
Well, I do definitely think that because of so much of, let's say, the moon bump conspiracies, fake kids, rental kids, all these sorts of things, I think some of the mainstream media do want to stay away from that, which I totally understand. I am not somebody who actually subscribes to the notion that Meghan used a surrogate. And the reason is, especially in the UK, that would have been exceptionally difficult to pull off. Now, was she vain enough to think sometimes that her belly didn't look the way she wanted it to and padded her belly? I could 100% believe that. And I understand why people question things. I understand it. So I don't think it's unfair to say, hey, people question certain aspects of this, because I know people who have started questioning more. They're like, well, I was on the idea that she had the kids, and now this twerking video, now I question it. And so I totally understand where people are coming from, but I also understand the mainstream media not wanting to get into at least some of the conspiracy realms, because it can get a little crazy going down that path. And I understand how they're like, hey, don't want to get involved in that. I'm just going to report generally, but there are questions to ask.
Well,
100%.
yeah, and the thing is, I get that, but there were questions to ask then. Like, why would you accept as a media pack, as a royal rota pack, remember I was never part of that, oh yeah, it's just totally fine that we have been point blank lied to about the birth of this baby. Oh, it's totally fine that with those lies, it means that there was actually no formal sign off of the baby. So look, I want to show you, and because what I think is so important, Brittany, is to point out that this is what I was asking contemporaneously at the time, 6 years ago, and also how extraordinary it was, and not that I buy a lot of their answers, but how extraordinary it was that Buckingham Palace knew that this was such an issue that they actually decided to go on the record with me on it. So I'll take you through my questions then and their answers, but this is how I set up the whole story at the time. I wrote, has there ever been a couple more full of contradictions than the Duke of Duchess of Sussex? So determined were Prince Harry and Meghan to protect their privacy during the birth of their firstborn, they even released a statement beforehand insisting the public, who pay for the bulk of their very luxurious lives, would not be finding out much about it. If this couple is going to blindly throw out decades of royal tradition and use our money to run their household like a royal version of Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, then it is right for the media to ask questions about the shambolic announcement to find out what went wrong. So this week, I posed 8 key questions to Buckingham Palace about the announcement, which they have answered below. And I said, you can be the judge about what really went on. So, Brittany, I find it still extraordinary that Buckingham Palace agreed to answer these questions on the record, but they did, and here were the questions. Why did Harry and Meghan's American PR, Sarah Latham, promise to alert the media the moment Meghan went into labour, only to wait around 12 hours to do so? Buckingham Palace answered, we have always made clear the wish of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex that the birth would be a private event, as stated in our Royal Comms operational note issued on April the 10th. Their Royal Highnesses have taken a personal decision to keep the plans around their arrival of their baby private. The Duke and Duchess look forward to sharing the exciting news with everyone once they'd had the opportunity to celebrate privately as a new family. The Duchess had gone into labour in the early hours of the morning during the pre-agreed media blackout period. The labour announcement was predominantly for operational purposes to trigger the opening of the media facility. But Brittany, that really doesn't make sense when you look at my next question to Buckingham Palace of Sarah Latham. Why did Sarah Latham then seem to lie about it by eventually announcing Meghan was in labour after 9 hours after she'd actually given birth? And their answer, Brittany, here is extraordinary. She didn't. Media reporting inferred that the Duchess was not in labour, not our announcement. The announcement stated that the Duchess went into labour in the early hours of the morning. The Duke of Sussex was by Her Royal Highness's side. An announcement will be made soon. So, Brittany, to me, that feels like weasel words after the truth, after the fact.
Yes, and what's actually interesting too is that you can actually see this problem continuing for Harry and Meghan and their PR team is when they're not clear, and then the media, like for Harry, for example, in his interview where he was talking about how, oh, it was the British media that ran with this inference that we claimed racism against the royal family, when it was like, what we were taking your words, and it was like the American media who ran with it and everything, and Harry just saying, oh, you didn't understand what I was saying. And then Meghan with the whole as ever disastrous, like kind of, we're launching products, we're not launching products, we're launching products again. And I was like, it was Meghan's inconsistent media strategy again that was the cause of that. So this has been, again, a long-standing problem, and their inability to communicate, I think in part because they simply just want to play games, and it just results in a chaotic version of themselves on the public stage.
Yeah, I mean, this was completely disingenuous. So I had my suspicions, and this is the thing. Remember, as a journalist, you're sometimes asking questions to try and work out or trying to back up suspicions you had. And at the time, my suspicions, Brittany, weren't so much then that this was necessarily a fake pregnancy, but more that the announcement was being timed because she needed to work in with the American breakfast show, specifically Gayle King. So my question then, was the announcement delayed until 1 p.m. in time for the American breakfast TV shows in New York at 8 a.m.? The answer from Buckingham Palace, no, the announcement was timed to suit the Duke and Duchess of Sussex after their family and friends had been informed. I then go on to ask, had CBS This Morning been tipped off about the due date and birth plans in order to allow presenter Gayle King to fly to the UK and film a primetime special? No, Buckingham Palace says. CBS are making a programme to commemorate the Royal Highness's first wedding anniversary. So again, I'm just not convinced, Brittany. I think they were absolutely doing it for Gayle King and Savannah Guthrie.
Yes, I can totally see them manipulating things to suit their own agenda. And this goes back to the idea that Harry and Meghan, I think Buckingham Palace gave them way too much leeway. Your child is in the line of succession. Yes, there are certain things about the birth you can control. But again, to live under the umbrella of this institution, you have to abide by certain things. And I think Buckingham Palace gave them way, way, way too much leeway here to the point where it made the palace itself look foolish. And this again, I think, re-emphasizes that the palace and the machinery of the monarchy needs to take Harry and Meghan more seriously and make sure that Harry and Meghan's antics don't impact the future of the crown. That's where things should go at this point. Because obviously the birth, I think, was a mess that could have been avoided if protocols were put in place and Harry and Meghan were reined in.
Then things just got weirder. Brittany, they got weirder because everything around this announcement just went wrong. Like everything around this announcement went wrong to the point where apparently emails weren't being sent. I mean, it's 2019, right? But this was my question because I was really trying to trap them into their own lies sometimes to really ensure that they were going to blame an email failure when, you know what, you could just pick up the phone, couldn't you? But anyway, so this was my question. When an email failure meant the media could not be alerted at 1 p.m. that Meghan had gone into labor, even though she had actually given birth at that point, why not speak directly to news organizations on the phone? The answer from Buckingham Palace. As we advised, there were technical issues with the announcement. We have apologized to the media who were affected. When we realized the email had not been sent, we tried to contact as many people as quickly as possible. But first, we've been told our whole lives that wrinkle creams were the easiest way to look younger. Now, one doctor says that's nothing but old news. According to Dr. John Lake, the world-renowned Beverly Hills beauty expert, most wrinkle fixers on the market are actually nothing but glorified moisturizers. They hardly make a dent on your appearance. Some can even be harmful to your skin, he said. Now, recently, Dr. Lake has focused his attention away from mainstream cosmetic practices. Why? So that he can pursue a revolutionary anti-aging breakthrough, one that some experts say could empty the wallets of the cosmetic industry. He says it's almost like Photoshop for your face, and you may even be mad after seeing how easy it is to visibly erase your wrinkles from view. His personal clients have dubbed his new do-it-yourself technique the age rewinder method because it can take years or even decades off your appearance in under 2 minutes. So in light of this amazing breakthrough, Dr. Lake has released a step-by-step video to the public. It is free and uninterrupted where he outlines exactly how to use this simple solution from home. And he says if this helps even one person look younger or feel more confident, he will be thrilled knowing he helped. The video's gone viral. It started on Facebook. There's been well over 2 million views now. And I mean, women all around the world, thousands of women actually, are reporting they look decades younger. One commented, best results of anything I've used. I can't believe how well this works. I'll never stop using this. I don't understand how it works, but the results are great. Thank you. So you can find out more about this yourself right now at bhmd1.com/outspoken, or just click on the link in the description box below. That's probably easy, but let me repeat the address, bhmd1.com/outspoken. Dr. Lake does ask one thing from his viewers. If watching the video helps you look and feel younger than you have in years, then please share it with your friends and loved ones, because together we have the power to help as many women reclaim a youthful look as possible. So go watch the video right now at bhmd1.com/outspoken, or just click on the link in the description box below. But now, back to the show. Brittany, very, very odd, isn't it? I'm sorry, you see where I'm going with this. I'm not trusting this. Oh, the emails broke. I think there was a cover-up going on, Brittany. I really do.
I mean, it's just this level of chaos is just inexcusable for an organization like the monarchy. They hire people to manage these sorts of things. And yes, sometimes the monarchy, I would say, especially the Brits, I think are a little bit still behind the media curveball here. I think the Scandinavian royals, I think, have some of the best media games, and so does the Spanish. But I think this proves again that the palace really had very limited control over Harry and Meghan. And I think they were scrambling too behind the scenes, which is absolutely not what should be happening. And if Harry and Meghan wanted to run things their way, well, that's fine. But your kids aren't in line of succession. They aren't part of the monarchy. Like, we can do things another way. But at this point, the kid, them, everything is being paid for in many ways by the taxpayers, and the
Yes.
taxpayers deserve a level of
Yes, but
transparency
that's my
here.
point. We've never had the truth because it just gets weirder, Brittany. It just gets weirder because my next question to Buckingham Palace was this. Why in the period between the in labour announcement being broken by Sky News and the Instagram post announcing the birth did Buckingham Palace press officers officially deny any birth? The answer from Buckingham Palace, we would only ever confirm the birth following an official announcement. Instagram was also not how the birth was announced. It was done via an official announcement. So, Brittany, in other words, yes, they did lie. They did lie. They told people this baby hadn't been born when the baby had apparently been born. You can see why people think this is just so strange.
It is. And you have to as well think Meghan started this. Meghan and Harry are the ones responsible for the chaos surrounding their children. They really have nobody else to blame. And I could also see this too, that some of this chaos is happening because I would imagine Harry and Meghan aren't even telling the palace the full truth. And so I could totally see a situation as well where communication is not happening deliberately because Meghan and Harry aren't communicating with people in the way they should be. And again, this goes back to the idea of Harry and Meghan, as members of the monarchy, as working royals, must abide within certain protocols regarding birth. And that has to be followed. And yes, you will have your personal moments, but you are serving a broader institution. If you want to be a private citizen, you had your chance to do that months ago. But Meghan never cared again. She did not care about what the monarchy needed from her at all. And as a result, people think her kids are fake. They think they're AI. They think they're borrowed kids, like all these sorts of things because of Meghan and Harry. And for Harry, especially, who has dealt with rumors that he is James Hewitt's son and those sorts of things, to put that burden on his own children, I think is completely and utterly appalling.
Then the questions went on, Brittany. Was the 12:40 p.m., 7:40 a.m. in New York embargo on little Archie's first appearance put in place to maximize coverage on the US morning TV shows? This is, do you remember when Harry and Meghan appeared with the baby? There they are at Windsor Castle. And the answer was no. The photo call at 1200 with an embargo of 1240 was timed to fit around the timing of the Sussexes' visit to Windsor Castle to introduce their son to his great-grandparents. And then I asked, given Prince Harry spoke publicly about the birth in such lovely details, why not inform the media of where it took place in order to stop speculation and unnecessary false reporting? Answer from Buckingham Palace: we have always said the birth would be in private in accordance with the express wishes of the parents and made it clear on the day we would not be releasing this information. In this context, it is very unfair to blame individuals for stories which the press choose to run. Now, I went on to say, many people will rightly not be worried about the minutiae of this debacle. They're interested in the historic pictures and cute words from Harry and Meg. But for the media, this is a question of trust and respect. So the next time we hear the Sussex couple belly aching about privacy, please remember this is a couple who appear to pick and choose which parts of life are private and will work with the media when it benefits them to do so. But Brittany, my point is, this was a scandal at the time. It remains a scandal today.
And it should. And what you see there too is that the palace is blaming the press for running stories they didn't like, or stories of chaos behind the scenes, which was what was actually happening. And again, this goes back to, I think, competing PR teams. You know, the Sussexes had theirs, the palace had theirs, Catherine and William had theirs, Charles has his, and they're all, I think, clashing over this. I think there's a massive disruption going on behind the scenes and a level of chaos that I think Meghan sort of loves to, I'm sure, rile people up and get people talking and all these sorts of things. And so you see this absolute disaster unfold, and you can't blame the press for running stories if you're not communicating effectively. This, again, goes back to PR Basics 101. If you're not communicating effectively, wouldn't you know it? The media runs with other things. So if you actually run a good PR team, you should not have these issues. I mean, the problem, of course, with Harry and Meghan is not PR really, it's themselves. And I think themselves were, or Harry and Meghan were dictating so much of this going on behind the scenes, and you just see an epic train wreck unfold. And again, all goes back to Harry and Meghan. They could have done it the simple way, but always they choose the hardest way to achieve things. And I don't think it ever actually results in good things for them.
No, it doesn't, Brittany. It absolutely doesn't. And I will stress, it doesn't matter what you think about why there was a cover-up going on. Okay? It doesn't matter in this case about whether you think the birth was real, whether you think there was a surrogate, whether you think Meghan was wearing a moon bump. The fact is, Harry and Meghan lied. Buckingham Palace lied on their behalf. There was a complete cover-up over the birth of Prince Archie, and we have to keep looking into why. And the fact that I was asking those questions within the mainstream media back in 2019 proves that actually, if anyone was just interested in trying to find the truth, there is an opportunity to do that. But Brittany, thank you so much for running through that with me today. You know I'm going to keep on this story. And of course, do subscribe to the Royal News Network on YouTube for so much more analysis of royal families around the globe. But if you do want first access to the Royal Uncancelled After Show here on Outspoken, sign up to my Substack, www.outspoken.live. Substack, such an important community, focused entirely on free speech. You can communicate with me directly. And as I say, you get first access live or on demand to our Royal After Show every weekday. Brittany, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.